BeTheTalk, episode 361, featuring Cameron Flotow. Welcome to BeTheTalk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Cameron Flotow. Cameron, are you ready to talk?
Let's do it.
Cameron Flotow is an interdisciplinary studies major, futurist, computer science teacher, cancer survivor, entrepreneur, and app developer. You can find out more on his Twitter feed, which we will show you at the end of the podcast. Cameron Flotow, welcome to the talk.
Thanks for having me.
Your talk is called BRITE, Strangers to Friends. And you mention in your talk, you come right out on stage. You say the greatest thing that happens to us can feel like the worst thing. And in your case, before this amazing app of BRITE, it started off with you with a very, very difficult diagnosis. Please take us behind the talk, Cameron.
Sure. Back in 2011, I was diagnosed with a pretty terrible cancer called leukemia. And really at the time, I mean, of course, for anybody, that'd be the worst thing that could possibly happen to you, right? It threw my whole life for a loop. But through that, I learned a lot of really interesting things. So after I was diagnosed, a couple of people found out. I had mentioned it on my social media, and my town actually organized a concert for me on my behalf and raised money to help me because one of the problems
the whole town. I mean, you mentioned people got involved and people were really, you were surprised at the amount of help that you received. I missed that part. The town pitched in. That's amazing.
Yeah. People in my town, they got together and organized this concert for me just because they realized or learned about the fact that I didn't have medical insurance. So obviously when you go through something like that and not have medical insurance, it's a problem. So they raised a lot of money for me. And what that showed me is that our town actually has a lot of hidden power in it. It is a resource for everyone. So what I'm trying to do is develop a social media that can help leverage that power and get it to people who need it.
Yeah, well, and just to, I guess, pivot over to the app. I mean, it's almost like a hyper local Facebook, if I understand correctly, that tells people when you are in a 10-mile vicinity of people. So is it more to be able to meet people on the fly, or more to kind of localize your Facebook or your social reach?
Well, what I'm trying to do is unite people and make it so that you can create new friendships. So that was one of the things that really helped me, because it wasn't exactly my circle of friends that helped me. It was friends of friends that made it possible. So what I'm trying to do is create a place where we can actually reach everyone that is in your area, because those people that are closest to you, both, through relationship and location, are the people that are probably able to help.
Yeah.
So
now, I mean, I may be connecting too many things together, but was the idea for this app, and forgive me, everybody, if I'm a little bit dense, but was that birthed out of the support that you received?
Yes. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. All right. Sometimes I got to bring it all together, but man, so you are in the middle of treatments, or you're awaiting your diagnosis, or you're recovering, and you get this idea for an app. Tell me about the development process. Tell me about when you actually first got it, and explain it to me.
Actually, it was about 3 days after I was diagnosed. So I was diagnosed, and then on October 5th of 2011, Steve Jobs passed away. So he was always one of my idols. I saw him as a great influencer, and I wanted to be a lot like him. After watching this documentary about this person, I realized that, if I'm going to survive this ordeal, I have to do something. I can't let my life that has been given back to me, if I survive, be wasted. I can't let that happen. So what I'm trying to do is make the world a better place with this borrowed time.
Yeah, and I certainly recall that from the talk, the life of Steve Jobs, and then how poignant that was with the timing of it. And I just love. I mean, it's almost some people might read into this a little bit. It's almost like a little bit of the inspiration kind of kind of rubbed off a little bit just by thinking about his situation, being in a very similar situation. Fortunately, I will commend you in seeking medical help, even traditional medical help, that many people are a little, look a little askance at, but like Steve Jobs, may he rest in peace. So I'm glad that you did that, and I'm glad that you got this app idea. And then I guess when the whole town rallies around you, you've already got a built-in, baked-in set of evangelists for the new app that you're putting together. That's really inspired by the community and their love and their support for you. So what was did they get it right away? I mean, what was the process of communicating and validating the app like?
So the app is still under production right now. I've got a couple of people that are really, really great at what they do. I have Sarah Kinsey. She is my graphic designer. I met her again through a friend of a friend, which is kind of cool. I have a developer, and he's one of the better developers in my area, also through a friend of a friend. I discovered him, Philip Zadalis. And then my business partner, Dominic Rega, he actually I met through college when, after I finished all of my treatment, I went through a bone marrow transplant. All of that was successful, thankfully. I decided, I'm going to go back to school and, start turning things around. And through an entrepreneurship class, he and I met and decided, we should try to make this thing real, because I had already had this idea in the back of my mind emanating. And, we talked about it and we decided, let's go for it. Let's make this.
Awesome. Talk Universe, we have been enjoying this conversation with Cameron Flotow. His talk is called BRITE, Strangers to Friends, and you can hear how the app really accomplishes all of that, and based on Cameron's experience. It's wonderful how it all ties in together, and we're going to talk about this more, but we're going to pivot over to you in just a moment, Talk Universe, because it's time for the Blitz Round. Hey, Talk Universe. I hope you've been enjoying today's episode with today's guest. But you know what? Many people want more than that. Many people that listen to Be The Talk actually want to give a talk. And if that's you, you're not alone. Listen to the rest of this podcast. At the end, I'll have a free resource for you just for listening. And we're back with the Blitz Round, and we are talking with Cameron Flotow. His talk is called BRITE, Strangers to Friends. I'm going to ask Cameron a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of his recent talk. Are you ready, Cameron?
Let's go for it.
All right. First off, were you invited to speak, or did you apply?
I applied.
Any advice on other people who are trying to get accepted right now?
Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah. Well, in terms of your practice, are you a memorizer, improviser, or a blender?
Well, what I learned is never to memorize. You should always not improvise either. You should internalize your speech.
Mm-hmm. Great. What's a tip, tool, or technique that you can recommend?
Get yourself in a clear state of mind and then just try to recite your speech over and over again.
Cameron, were you an opener? Were you a closer, or were you in between?
I was actually towards the end, but I wasn't at the very end.
Mm-hmm. What's your advice for people that are kind of in between?
Don't get intimidated by other people's talks. You strive to do your best, not try to compete with others. Compete with yourself.
Good advice for sure. This is the cut for time question. What was the most painful part of your talk to cut out? I know you had, you clocked in at 8 minutes, which is a nice time for a talk. So what did you have to cut out?
I would have liked to go more in depth with my story, but for sake of time and to keep the emotion of the talk at a place where I can actually relieve it, it was good to cut some of that out.
And it's interesting that you mentioned internalizing your talk, because I mean, it was succinct, because many people out there go into applying for a TEDx talk and they're like, oh, I'm going to have my 18 minutes and I'm going to take all the time that they give me. And maybe they gave you more, maybe they told you only 8 minutes, but I mean, I have found tracking this, and that's another story, but I've done extensive tracking. The shorter ones are the better. My own talk clocked in at 12 minutes. I was going for like 8 or 9, and I was annoyed that it went over 10 minutes. But I mean, you truly internalized yours, because it was very, very well delivered, very well scripted, and very well interpreted. So obviously, you've got quite a work ethic in doing that. Do you do other public speaking before this, or what did you do to prepare specifically?
Well, I hadn't done a lot of public speaking before that. I had been on TV a couple of times, which was nice, just talking about my application, getting the idea out there. But really, I mean, I know this isn't really to your question, but I've always had a fear of public speaking. So that was a really interesting thing to conquer too. So, yeah, I've always been afraid of getting up in front of people, a little bit of that social anxiety, of course. So yeah, doing that really felt like a triumph, because I was able to overcome this fear of mine for something that was so important to me.
Yeah, and doing it very well. So, I mean, the television media appearances definitely help a lot. And giving a TEDx talk is very similar to almost like a television media thing, because it's a YouTube event. Did you have some kind of a media coach or PR? I know the app's still in development, so I'm thinking the answer is no, but again, for you to have done all of that stuff and to stay on point, what do you attribute that to, other than just hard work?
Good research is actually a good thing. Yeah. What I did is I read as many articles I can about speaking. Of course, my major is also in communications. So that was very helpful. We can't discount that.
That definitely helps. So you get steered in the right direction with good norms, and studying all kinds of different, broadcasting or communication techniques and situations. So I can't underestimate that at all. Cameron, what was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk?
Actually, I forgot part of my talk. Now I didn't leave it out, but there was one moment in it. I think it was at maybe 4.5 minutes in. I forgot what I was going to say, but I had prepared for that. So by internalizing my speech, even if I forget a word, I can continue because I understand the progression of my talk. And I try to make it so that my talk was just like, walking on a treadmill, one step after the other. And I was able to remember the entire thing. So Talk Universe, that's really important, because Cameron had like an outline or a framework or some kind of a backbone, so that he internalized this, so that if he missed something, which I couldn't even tell at the 4-minute mark or whatever, but I mean, you just keep going, and you were able to be in the moment because of the mastery of the preparation. It doesn't throw you. It's not the deer in the headlights freeze. It doesn't have to be that way when you master your material as well as the performance environment that you're going to be in as well. So we have been enjoying the Blitz round with Cameron Flotow. Again, his talk is called BRITE, Strangers to Friends. You can watch that on our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com. We will have a link, or you can type it straight into YouTube if you prefer. And we will also have a link to Cameron's Twitter feed and LinkedIn profile in the show notes, so you can connect with him if you want to find out more about this amazing app that is at the time of this recording still under development, but it's going to connect you with everybody within a 10-mile radius. Just go to our show notes page, link in, or Twitter connect with Cameron, and you'll find out more in that way. And we will be right back with Cameron Flotow's final word of advice in just a moment. Hey, Talk Universe, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you want to give the talk to change the world, but you don't know how or even where to start, no problem at all. Go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted for my new 5-day email course that'll show you how. Absolutely free. Just go to BeTheTalk.com/get accepted.
And we're back with Cameron Flotow. It is time for the final word of advice. What is it?
So I saw one person on my talk who forgot his speech in the middle of it. I just want to go back and tell you guys to practice. If you don't practice, that can happen to you, and you'll be a deer caught in the headlights, and that'll just be the end of your talk.
Talk Universe, don't let it happen to you. Cameron Flotow, thank you so much for coming on the talk today and sharing your wisdom with Talk Universe.
All right. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.